So what we're going to do now is go through a proof on disjunction elimination. Now, in order to do this, we'll rely on a previous proof that we used for the Law of Excluded Middle. And you'll see why this one little rule that we have now at our disposal as part of our deduction actually saves us quite a bit of time. Without that, we would have to go through the full 8 steps of the Law of Excluded Middle, and we just want to save ourselves the effort from that. And so what it is that we're going to deduce is going from the premise P implies Q to be able to deduce not P or Q. Right? And the way we're going to go about doing this is use the Law of Excluded Middle. Now in JAPE, what you'll find, the LEM step is one that's a forward step, a forward deduction will let you do, but it invents 2 new symbols entirely. And so the trick here in JAPE is locking those symbols to the right things that you want to achieve, right? And so through this proof, you'll see how these invented symbols underscore B1, and well, it's only one symbol that we introduce here, underscore B1, how it actually gets locked to the particular predicate P or the proposition P that we want to be able to align to. So the next step in this is to, once we have our LEM applied, is to use a disjunction elimination, and that is a forward step that you'll see. It's not something in backwards. And essentially what disjunction elimination does is to say, okay, I'm going to assume one, then I'm going to assume the other, and no matter what assumption I make, we need to follow all the way the deduction steps to get to the same conclusion. So when we do disjunction elimination here, it makes some assumptions for us. It assumes underscore B1 and then not underscore B1. These disjuncts to disjuncts here could be anything, right? It could be P or Q, it could be P or not Q, and here it's underscore B1 or not underscore B1. It just takes those 2 individual ones and creates a separate assumption box for each of them. Now, each of the individual assumption boxes needs to lead to the same conclusion, and that's what it is that we're trying to prove at the bottom here. So it inserts it for us automatically, and we want to be able to deduce not P or Q in either of these cases. Now in the first case, the negation here, this is very, very close to what it is that we already want to achieve, right? If this underscore B1 was actually a P, we would be all set. And so I'll show a way to do this deduction proof first by looking at this second sort of assumption box here. So if we work backwards with the disjunction introduction, and let's say we want to preserve the left side of this, what it's going to do is create a not P here, and we've introduced the disjunction by adding Q. And now we can take these 2 parts of the proof and either in a backward or forward way align them here with the hypothesis. Now doing that, you'll see that we've now said that underscore B1 should be aligned with the symbol P, and it reflects it up here in the first assumption box as well. And so now things become pretty easy for us to go forward. We can select this and our premise, and in a forward step use the implication elimination, which gets us Q, and then again here we'll use these 2 steps, and in backwards say we're going to introduce the disjunction, preserving the Q that we have, right? And so here we've preserved Q on the right side, and so everything sort of falls out from that. But this is only one approach that you might do for this. If I unwind all of the steps here, and say I didn't start with the second assumption box, but instead started with the first, it's a little more difficult, and this sort of raises the point of how you might want to follow things. And so if we were to start with the first instead, our end product is going to look exactly the same. What we need in between steps 3 and 4 is for us to result in Q. And so another way of going about proving this entire thing and sort of locking P to that new symbol we created is to start here and say, okay, we're going to introduce this disjunction, and it's Q that we've introduced. So it's a disjunction introduction, and we're preserving the right side here, right? So we get to Q. And now the next step, we can't tie B1 to any symbol here. You can't just take P implies Q and then B1 and then in a forward way say we're to eliminate this because it just cascades, and it's really taking us down the wrong path, right? So instead what we're trying to do here is to use in a backwards fashion, but using a forward deduction rule to say we're going to eliminate this implication, but we're going to be using Q in order to ground what it is that we're doing. Now in doing so, it creates this new step here for us to achieve P, but it allows us to sort of work backwards in this implication elimination, even though it's under the forward menu. So I show this not as a better way to do this, it's more of a roundabout way, but it just shows the intricacies of the different deduction steps you might need to employ in some of the more difficult proofs that you'll face inside of this course. But now that we have P and Q and we've done the rest here, it's a straightforward process for us to say, let's tie these two things together. Again, forward or backward, it doesn't matter which one you use. You can tie them together through that hypothesis. And now the symbol _B1 is tied to P. And so you can use it everywhere that you need. And so for example, in this one, we can go back and do our backward step. We want to do a disjunction introduction and we're preserving the left. So we ask for a backward step. It's just giving extra information from here. We could have used it forward, but we'll just proceed with it, and it completes the proof. And so this shows how we can use the law of excluded middle to sort of generate these larger proofs, and in this case demonstrating how to do disjunction elimination. And keep in mind this one step here where we invented this, P or not P. It started as the _B1 symbols. This one step corresponds to an 8-step deduction proof that we saw in the previous module. So this is why it's extremely helpful to have this inside of a menu here to use sort of off the shelf.